Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Roaming Nexus. I'm Troubleinc, your host. And oh my God, I need to get used to the side. Over here is my co host, Iris. Thank you for joining once again.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Iris, the host from the LPL.
This is a first off in League of Legends where we bring you the East and the West. Now, from the West, we have brought the one and only Worlds Finalist 2018, Broxah. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Very excited to take part.
And something that might make Broxah sad, the 2018 World Champion, Baolan. Ni hao, Baolan.
Hello everyone, I'm Baolan.
Oh,
Sweet.
you prepared something. You prepared.
2018 Worlds. Broxah, thoughts and feelings and thoughts. It was like 7 years ago. Does it still sting?
It's funny because I think 2018 Worlds at the same time is one of the greatest and most heartbreaking moments of my career. I feel like it really had it all. I mean, as a Western team coming into Worlds that year, we didn't really have any expectations. We thought we wouldn't have any chance against the Korean and Chinese teams because the West just always, lost. But then suddenly everything clicked. Obviously, we had a lot of competitive matches with IG in the group stage, and yeah, I don't know. We really believed up until the final, and then the days after the final, I'm still trying to erase them from my memory. But it was great up until that point.
就是其实我觉得比赛就是都是这样的，尤其是我们自己做选手的，可能最明显的可以感觉得到，就比如现在在打先锋赛，就是我们可以很直接的感觉得到，就是选手们可能有多大的压力。但是无论如何，我们都知道最后只会有一个队伍获胜，然后所有的都是输家，除了那一个队伍以外，大家都会很痛苦的整个团队离开那个场馆，然后离开那个场地。所以，嗯，可以预计吧，就是无论要么是胜，要么是负，就是总是会有一方很痛苦。然后，因为我自己个人是一个比较悲观的类型，所以总是不会把期待放得特别高。但是确实18年最后很幸运吧，尤其是决赛，从我们自己队伍角度来说，还算是一个比较顺利的赢下的，因为是3-0嘛，没有特别的复杂的来回，所以就是还挺幸运的。但是可以想象得到，就是如果是对手的话，费尽全力到了决赛，但是看起来没有什么办法赢的话，确实会比较的难受，因为我可能也经历过类似的比赛。
I would like to jump in with a question for him here.
Oh,
Go for it.
So, I would like to know what their practice was like going into the final, like the team spirit, the atmosphere, practice, whether the last week leading up to the final was really good and productive. And then I'll share our side afterwards.
说到这个很好笑，其实我们就是打决赛之前，就是整个队伍的训练赛其实情况不是特别好。我们当时训练赛约的最频繁的是那个 DWG 当时，然后胜率非常糟糕，在当时。然后当时 DWG 好像还不是一个 LCK 特别有名的队伍，但是后来他就特别有名了，就是到了那个第2年，他们就展现了很强的竞争力。但是当时可能他们好像是我没有准确的记忆，是他们是刚上到 LCK 还是怎么样？但是我们当时训练赛跟他们打，就是状况不是特别好，而且我们小组赛确实也输给过 Fnatic，而且当时输的还蛮惨的，所以其实也不是很有底。但是其实但是大家到了决赛，大家其实都知道，大家都是互相有机会赢的。然后也是随着比赛进行，发现我们可能今天状态要更好，然后才顺利赢下来。然后我们打完那个比赛，我们教练就去 DWG 了，后面好像。
Okay.
I find that interesting because we were also scrimming both Damwon and Griffin a lot leading up to the final, and they completely destroyed us. Like we had some very rough days of scrims. I think if we scrimmed 20 games that week, maybe we won 1 or 2. Like it was really extreme. And I think leading up to the final, our team, it's not like we fully collapsed, but we were all really burned out from playing so much and from being in this situation, dealing with the pressure. And we were confident, we believed in ourselves, and we knew it. Well, we expected it to be a close final. But I think after they surprised us in draft in game 1, like we spent so many hours talking about every draft scenario and what they're gonna pick and whatnot. They still surprised us. If I remember correctly, it was especially the Scion top, the Giant and tank. We hadn't seen that coming, and we didn't adapt well in draft. And everything just collapsed. And I think it's a shame because I really loved playing IG at the time. It felt like the meta had shifted from the slow Korean style of, just slow macro play to just being up against a team like IG that just looks you in the eye and wants to outplay you mechanically. And it was so much fun to fight and have all these skirmishes. So I think it's a shame that we didn't get to have that competitive final, but I think our team just wasn't well equipped to go into that final. And then, like I said, once it started going wrong, it went really wrong, and we just collapsed.
对，我感觉比赛很多时候都会这种，就是比如你可能预想的对手的一些选的英雄，然后和你预想的完全不同的话，然后可能整个设计的都会变得很混乱。然后当时可是比赛的时候，虽然我们大家都知道泽赛是一个玩进攻型上的很优秀的选手，但是，其实大家很难避免就是玩一些进攻型的英雄会有一个时间压力的这个事情，而且心理上也会，很难避免急躁的这种心情。所以一般来说的话，感觉如果有很大的把握，就是不认为自己的个人实力比对面要糟糕的话，可能选一些更稳定的东西，可能更好发挥出他的能力嘛。如果自信的话，团战也能做得比对面好的话。
Wow. First of all, Broxah, I cannot stand to comprehend how it feels playing versus IG, because back then every single player was like, I'm gonna hands diff you, I'm gonna skill check you every part of the way. There wasn't any slow playing. It was like, I see player, I'm gonna 1v1, I'm gonna 2v2. So they instantly put the pressure of like, you either react or you just lose the game right there. And I know you're a very heart-led player, like your feelings lead you in how you play the game. We've seen it so many times, and you've given us some incredible moments in your career. Thank you, Mr. Broxah sign. That's where it came from. So we thank you for that. However, I want to ask you, if you could go back to this final and you could choose one player from your team to tell them something, anything, whether you got angry with them, whether you got sad with them, or whether you want to give them advice, what would it be?
I
他
think.
会说什么上路要小心打野之类的话吗？
Well, before answering the question, I can say that the next year after the final, Weibo was trying to convince me to play Gragas after what Ning did to him. Ning was very mean to Weibo in that final, and we started playing a lot of Gragas ourselves in 2019, partly because of what happened, realizing how strong he is. But I think for me, it's a little bit silly when you look back on it as well, because it's almost obvious now. But I wouldn't pick one person. I think it comes down to not just the solo lanes, but just our approach as a team, that we tunneled in a little bit on the series IG played against G2 in semi-final. And we knew there was a chance they would lock in Cyan top. We knew there was a chance they would pick stuff like Lissandra, Galio mid. But I think the matchups that we were preparing and that we ended up in just didn't allow us to deal with those picks as well as we liked. And we came in with a very aggressive mindset, wanting to fight and force certain ways. And then they chose solo lanes that kind of negate all that pressure, and that didn't allow us to take the fights that we were looking for and look for the early game that we wanted. And I think at the end of the day, we came in with one playbook and one style of playing, whereas they adapted. They saw how we played semis, and they were one step ahead. And I think solo lanes is where you could really see that in the choice of picks. But I think it was like an overall thing for us, and that's something that I really learned, that you just need to be able to adapt much quicker. You can't keep playing the same way. A good team is going to take advantage of that.
说到这个，之前有一次就是S7的时候嘛，就特别流行那个号令之旗的那个版本，然后我们练了非常久的那个怎么来抗衡号令之旗的这个事情在中路，然后我们练了非常久打那个训练赛，我们打一个当时是 LMS 赛区吧，还挺厉害的一个，还叫得上名字的一个队伍，然后我们效果非常好，用那个冰鸟打赛的，然后结果比赛的时候就是完全不行，所以我感觉有时候那个训练赛有可能会给自己错觉的训练赛。我们就比赛打安吉的时候就发现完全不行，就应该是对手这个实力有差别。
哦，就是你的意思是说，就是玩这个队伍的本身的实力有差别。
对对对，就是同样的英雄，但是每个队伍可能不同选手打出来的内容又不一样，就这个时候有时候会有点尴尬。
Yeah, and I think at that level, when you have a team that is so close, it's just, the preparation that matters. And I think in this case, stuff like them knowing that we were going to play Urgot if it's open, knowing we were going to play Lee Sin if it's open, that was an issue, and we put ourselves in that situation and made it a bit easy for them. I'm not saying they wouldn't have won anyways. Maybe they would have stomped us if we had a different draft. But I think at the very least, it would have been a more, well, I don't want to say a more fun final. More fun for me, maybe a little stressful, more for Baolan and company. I don't know. That's what I would like to think, right?
哎，所以欧洲最好的辅助是谁啊？是 Mickey 还是 Helison 吗？因为我关注的很少，
Ooh.
因为我只知
Okay.
道他们，不是说别的不好啊。
You can't be biased, Broxah. You can't be biased.
I don't actually think it comes down to bias. So this support conversation we've had in Europe for like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And I think people are always going to have different takes depending on which team they support, whether it was, Fnatic or G2 in the past. I think the truth is, or the way I look at it is, Mickey has always been extremely consistent. Like his performance is really stable, or at least was like when the teams were peaking. Whereas Huli has really high highs and really low lows. So the way I looked at Huli in, let's say, 2018, 19, when we were really at our strongest, I actually believed going into a game that if Huli played at his best, no one else could beat him. Doesn't matter, what support in the world. But at the same time, he also always had games where it didn't go his way and he went 0-10. So there was both sides. And I think Mickey was simply a bit more consistent. So I don't know if I could pick one. I like both for different reasons. And I really enjoyed Julia's aggression. It was really fun to play with.
Okay, you know what? Just because Broxah always because I know him for a while now, he likes doing this thing where she's like, you know what? I love everyone and I love both. Broxah, give me one name. Hylissang or Mickey X? One name.
Well, then I'm gonna say Huli. What do you mean? I'm biased. I played with Huli. I love Huli. Like, of course I'm gonna say Huli.
That's
I mean, I
fine.
knew your answer. I just wanted to hear it from your mouth.
啊，因为我猜到应该也是类似这种保守的回答，但是我就是好奇一下。但我其实主要是想问的，其实是想问他们的履历谁的更漂亮一些？就比如像我们这边可能有 Mako 这种，就是履历特别突出的那种选手，就是一骑绝尘的。但是我对他们的履历其实不是完全了解，我只是想好奇 EU 履历最漂亮的辅助是谁？因为谁强这个有点主观。
Well, then it's definitely Mickey.
Yeah.
Because G2 won MSI. Mickey has won with G2 a lot of the recent years as well.
Yeah.
Like Huli has, very good achievements as well, and he would come in second. But Mickey has won on the tournament result.
It's actually crazy to see how the perception of Healy is still so high over in the East, especially since we haven't seen Healy's high highs for quite a long time in Europe. I think it's been very Mickey X dominated in the last few years. However, I think this should speak to testament of how good Healy is and has been throughout the years and the leader that he has been in every team. And I know he's going through tough times right now, so I wanted to send Healy-sang all our love from the podcast and that it does get better and it will get better. Right, on that note, and please feel free to not want to reply to this whatsoever, because I know it's a topic that is probably very dear to you and you know what you've gone through the best. But I know from reading articles about it that 2019 was not the best year for you whatsoever, and you put a lot of blame on yourself for that matter, and it felt like a quote-unquote failure on your part. Could you open up a little bit more about this and how it felt going through 2019 for you?
我觉得就首先我们18年是赢了嘛，然后大家对于这个上一年的冠军总是会有着比较高的期待，然后包括我们自己选手肯定也是，就是大家总会有一种不赢到最后就算失败的这种心情。我不敢确定是不是所有的选手都，但我自己当时有一种强烈的这种感觉，就是就算当时我们19年春季赛赢了，我也没有特别的开心，反而我觉得我那段时间竞技状态反而变得更糟糕了，就是觉得好像也没有什么实际的意义，因为没有赢到最后的话，感觉就是没有什么特别大的用处。至少在我当时的我来说，把这些东西看得很重，把这个就是最后的胜负看得很重。那现在回头来看，可能还是过程更重要。然后， 感觉当时也犯了很多就是不成熟的错误吧，然后这个角度比较可惜，就是很难想象赢了联赛冠军之后，我当时感觉19年的时候嘛，就是赢了联赛冠军，我感觉我当时的失落要比可能平时的失败要更大，就是有一个很强烈的反差感，就是很难形容。但是感觉就是在18年赢了之后，相比于享受过程更看重了结果吧。然后这个感觉也让我之后变得比较挣扎，因为这个原因。
所以你是说赢了19春的时候，你的那个失落感比平常输掉一场常规赛的那个
对，
失落感更大？
类似这个意思吧，就是没有很喜悦的那种感觉在当时。
嗯嗯
I heard a football player say at some point that when you're a professional athlete, even if you peak and, let's say in league terms, win the world championship, you can only enjoy that happiness for a couple of weeks because then preparation for the next year starts and you kind of start over again. So it's a really weird feeling. Whereas I guess for us coming back to Europe after the 2018 finals, it was kind of similar where we had very high expectations. We thought we were going to do really well. But then the smallest defeat here and there just crushes you because it's really hard to continue the success and continue the happiness. And every single year, when the reset button happens from one year to the other, you just start from scratch and you have to go again. And that can be a really big challenge as an athlete, right? Like not being able to enjoy that success for as long as you want.
Thank you both for sharing like insights, sorry, on the inside of a team, because all the fans know is your performance on the Rift, whether you got the smite on the Baron or not, whether you hit the hook on the Thresh or not, and that's what a lot of people define a good and a successful player by. But there's also the IRL version where it's like, hey, I'm also a person. I deserve to celebrate this. And I felt like what you said, Broxah, where it's like we just not give it enough time to celebrate it because we just have to keep going. It's just a fast-paced sort of industry. And I want you to tell me, ever since you turned into content creation, Broxah, and of course then Baolan after, what did you take away from your pro career that maybe you took into your content creation journey?
I think the main thing I learned from being a pro in esports is to at the very least try to put emphasis on living in the moment, enjoying where I am right now, because I've always been a very structure-minded person. And when you're in that world, you have control over nothing. Like everything relies on how the next game or series goes, and you don't know where in the world you're going to be playing in a couple of months from now. So just trying to take everything one step at a time. And I think it's one of the main things that's always helped me back as well. Before, when I was in school, if I had an important presentation or exam, I would often fail because I was so nervous about, oh no, what happens if I do this wrong, etc. But you can't have those feelings if you're a pro. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of millions of people watching. So you have to just take all those thoughts and get rid of them and do your best in the moment. And even now, it's something I still work on at times, but I think just having the ability to go in a little bubble and just try to make the most of most of the situation you're in right now is really important.
就首先我也是比较早打职业嘛，然后虽然就是可能没有打很久吧，跟很多的选手相比，但是我觉得也没有违背我打职业的一个初衷嘛。因为我最开始其实想打职业，有一个非常单纯的理由，就是我当时觉得我玩的挺好的，但是一局游戏只能10个人看到，有点可惜，所以是出于这个心情打的职业。然后后面也算是至少有短暂的被大家看到嘛。然后我身份转变之后，我觉得有一个比较直观的，就是我接触到了更多以前可能没有接触到的事情嘛。而且我觉得这个是，从某种角度上来说是更困难的事情，因为打职业其实真的蛮垂类的，就是每天要关注的事情真的是至少不够复杂，不够全面。以一个我们从那个，比如我是一个20几岁的男性，这个很复杂的这个部分来说，就是其实是比较少的。然后我可能跳脱出来这个身份之后，我从一个观察者的视角，然后包括看大家的比赛，然后感觉也更清楚了很多，然后也有机会学习更多的不同领域的相关的知识和经验吧。我觉得这个比较有意思，因为我自己还觉得不同的体验还挺好玩的。
I said it over when we were not recording, but I feel like the way that I remember Baolan in interviews back then and the way that he literally just entered this meeting and he started chatting to us and how, fluent and happy and cheery he was. I was like, wow, it's like such a completely different grown person from then till now. And it's honestly like incredible to see. You too, Broxah. Like you've been on like LEC broadcasts, you've been like everywhere. You've been like you've opened up so much, and it's just great to see. Do you guys think that you've grown as people through like your pro years and the transition?
I think one of the big challenges of being a pro player in esports is that it's really important years of your life where you grow a lot, that you start out. Most people are like 17, 18, in some cases even younger when they begin. And I feel like for me, when I was inside that bubble, you kind of get consumed by League of Legends to the point where I didn't really have a life outside of League. Like everything that you do during season or even in off season is for the team and to make yourself the best player you possibly can be and to try to compete at Worlds. And I got burned out by that during my fourth and fifth year especially, and decided to take a break. And I feel like once I was out of it and I was back in Denmark with family and had free time and stuff, I kind of realized, I guess a bit similar to what Baolan said, that there's so many things that you can do and experience and learn. And I guess for me, just getting to do some of these different things, or even enjoy some of the basics of life, it's really nice. And if I talk to someone about my schedule now, they would probably consider my life pretty boring, because it's very similar to a regular job. I almost mirrored what a regular job would look like with how I approach my concentration. But I find that so nice that you have more time to do some cooking or go for a walk or see a family member or whatever you want, right? I think that's really nice, and it probably also comes with age a little bit, right? That at some point when you reach the mid or late 20s, the priorities start shifting a little bit. I honestly think that's one of the main reasons that careers in esports are so short too, because you can do these 12, 16-hour days of practice for a couple of years, but eventually, it's just gonna destroy you. I mean, there are some players that are like, almost superhumans that can continue for a while, and I really respect that, but it's a bit rare.
其实还是刚才说的那些，打街的时候能接触到的，不管是人还是事，都非常的局限吧。然后身份转变之后，首先我也是不同的挑战，因为我其实觉得打街给我最大的一个比较直接的收获，就是我确实从很小的时候开始坚持这个事情，然后坚持了非常久，然后也得到了一定的反馈。所以我特别享受做一些，我感觉只要坚持努力做就会有反馈的事情。所以我对很多的就算是比较新鲜的工作，我的态度也是希望我可以，做得好，然后精益求精的做。所以我其实可能我不知道 Broda 他现在还打不打游戏啊，但我自己其实还是很爱打英雄联盟，因为我虽然觉得英雄联盟很无聊，但是我觉得其他游戏更无聊，这个我觉得大家都很多人都知道这个事情。然后，所以我自己还是其实打非常多的游戏，然后空闲的时候我可能就是会和朋友玩一玩。其实最直观的感受就是你能更有机会学习到更多不同的东西，就相比于打职业来说，而且也很有意思。
I do still play a lot of League of Legends, both as like my work as streamer and content creator, but also in my free time, because I feel the same way, where it doesn't really matter what other game I play. It's just not as fun and exciting as League, I guess. And it's also a running joke on my stream at this point that because I don't play as much as I used to, I make more mistakes naturally. And when I have the occasional misplay and Lee Sin, they all like, you're grandpa. It's okay. You're not expected to play well anymore.
We dove really deep, and I want to thank you both for your insights on the ins and outs of
so much.
everything. Yeah. And shall we dive into our fan section? Because our fans have sent you questions from different continents. So we have a question from the West, for Baolan, and a question from the East, Or Broxah, do you want to start, Iris?
Okay, this question is from Arnie. Broxah, what was your experience like after the 2018 finals? How did you bounce back after getting so close to the World's Trophy? What are some strategies you use to reset your mental when you feel like you're not playing your best?
Well, that is a good question. Actually, so one of the most brutal and funniest moments I remember after the final is I came back and I did like a reunion party with my friends, and one of them I knew really well, and I knew his family. So his dad came into the house because he said he really wanted to come say hi and talk to me. And he just looked me dead in the eye and he says, I just want you to know before I leave that if it was my son who only got second place, I wouldn't have allowed him to come home. He would still be, over there on the other side of the globe. And it felt really refreshing because at the time everybody was so careful about their comments about Worlds, and he just had the balls to make this joke that really caught me off guard. And I feel like that moment almost put things into perspective for me. That sure, it was like a really sad moment, but you gotta have those, learning lessons and along the way in life. And it can either destroy you or you can see it as something cool that happened and try to learn from it and try to find a way back and do better in the future. And I guess for me, while there's still parts of me that can get sad and frustrated about how the final turned out, I'm also proud of how it went. And, I feel like I grew a lot as a person throughout that tournament run. And I think to answer the other part of the question, I think a lot of stuff, both in gaming and in life, comes down to mentality and mindset. I think I've realized that there's going to be periods where things are not going the way I want it to, and where something bad happens, and periods where everything is great. But ultimately, I say sometimes that life is like solo queue. There's win streaks and loss streaks, and your ability to be happy and be successful, not necessarily from a work point of view, but to find happiness as a human being, comes down to how well you can deal with those loss streaks, learn from them, and use them to grow. And I think, I'm not perfect at that either, but that's what I strive to be, right? Just take any learning moment that I can, and hopefully, with time, they become a better version of myself, both as a player and as a human.
Captain Europe, thank you. That's such a great speech, and I've definitely learned something from the lesson.
Everyone should apply this. League of Legends player, content creator, everywhere in life, apply this. Take the L's with grace. Mourn if you have to do it. If you want to cry, do it. Grab the L and learn from it and just grow from it. I think that's the most important lesson. And thank you, Broxah, for sharing this with us.
感觉比喻成单排这个很漂亮的一个比喻。
I have a question from @me_Davida. Hope I'm saying the name right. Baolan, how do you feel having the most recognizable skin in League of Legends? I see his name every few games.
哦，真的吗？
对，
首先我这个是，这点比较感激吧，因为其实当时确实是有点破例单个出了一皮肤嘛，但是确实从我心里想，我觉得很多选手也会这么想，就是如果是不合适的话，还不如不要的这种心情。但是当时确实是他们也同意了这个想法，然后我也很开心能选到一个我觉得很漂亮的英雄作为这个能选择皮肤的，因为就是虽然大家总开玩笑说你怎么不选个塔姆啊什么之类的，但是我确实很难想象这样子去做，所以很感激吧。反正当时其实就是，因为其实落伍最开始是有设想，就是大概技能咋样，但是其他英雄我是完全没有设想，所以当时可能从设计师的角度上听起来我有点摆，但是就我当时可能跟他说了落怎么样做我会觉得更好，但是其他英雄的建议我完全没有给他，就其他建议可能就是你看着弄吧，就是类似这种，可能从设计师的角度来说，他可能觉得我在那个，但其实上我只是单纯的没有想过其他的英雄。我有一个问题，
请问，
我想问那个 Broxah，就是让他想象一个打野的英雄，然后他可能是一个很实用也经常会在系列赛登场的英雄，但是你作为打野选手绝对不会把他选做皮肤的一个英雄。我比较好奇这个英雄。Next time 看起。
The first one that comes to my mind is probably Ivan. I don't know what, an Ivan skin would look like. I think that would be very strange. I thought about it a lot actually, because right when I joined Fnatic in 2017, it was a champion I played a lot. He wasn't as meta in 18, but I was thinking at some point, imagine having a Fnatic Ivan skin. But then I couldn't picture what it would look like.
你能共情吗？
我能理解。
It would be all on Daisy. Daisy would be Fnatic themed, the whole thing.
Oh yeah, maybe wearing black jersey as well.
Yeah. I just want to say at this point, before we end, that I want to have like my little fangirl moment towards Baolan and say that IG Rakan is my most used skin. And I actually played Milio and Rakan on my first ever climb to Diamond. And every single time, there's like even clips of me doing this. Every single time I would get like an insane play with Rakan. Obviously, I was playing the IG skin. I would say, I'm Baolan, I'm Baolan, I'm Baolan. Look at me, I'm Baolan. Every single time. And I made it to Diamond, so it worked.
我也很感激。
Thank you for creating it, of course. And with that, that's all the time we have for our episode 2 of Roaming Nexus. I want to thank Iris so much for carrying so hard behind the scenes. A lot of it is being cut for your viewing pleasure, but Iris is an absolute monster in translation. She's doing a
Thank you so
fantastic job, and this would not be possible without you, Iris. Thank you so much for joining and being my co-host in this.
Thank you.
Thank you, of course, so much over here. So much to Broxah for joining us. And thank you for everything you've done for EU and, of course, in your content creation journey. And Baolan, Sheshe, thank you so much for finding the time to join
You're
us.
welcome.
It's been a pleasure. And we will see all of you guys on our next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
2、3。